Okay, everyone, welcome to Inside the Music for November of 2025 with the Fresno Philharmonic. We're very excited that you're here today, and we'll be discussing the works that are coming up on the concert this weekend. Uh, at first, before we go ahead, do you remember the wonderful concert that featured the tabla concerto by Danuk Gujarnavi last season? Do you remember that? I hope you attended that. It was amazing. Sandeep Das was the tabla player for that. And it turns out there is a lineage. I actually last night played a concert in India with someone who has a connection with Sandeep. And so I am right here in this part of India as I'm zooming in for you at 13 hours different than you. I'm here to play at a festival at the Indira Kala Sangeet Vishwavala in Karagarth. Yes. And I was invited by Dr. Lovely Sharma, who played a concert in Fresno not 3, 4 years ago before COVID, I think it was. So it's been a delight to be a part of this festival and at this university. This is me and before the concert last night. And I thought I'd share with you, since Sandeep talked about how people learn the tabla, just this tiny excerpt from a tabla class that I sat in on, just so you can hear what these are all undergraduate students. Actually, the girl in the middle is only 13 years old. So that's kind of the sound that you hear when you're here. I'm actually zooming to you from this palace at the university. This campus was donated by a former king whose daughter loved the arts and then passed away, and he donated the entire palace and grounds for the formation of this university. And they light it up at night. It looks like it's ready for a wedding, right? But it's just this music festival. So enough about me. Let's give a huge shout out and let's all give a great round of applause for Rei Hotoda signing another 4-year contract extension with the Fresno Philharmonic. So bravo, bravo. We are so happy about that. And there's a double whammy with our wonderful director. Rei Hotoda named music director of the Las Vegas Philharmonic Orchestra, which is another huge win, not only for Las Vegas, but for Fresno. So Ray, can you tell us a little more about this new position that you have? By the way, we're so excited you'll be about 2,500 miles closer
Yes.
to Fresno and only one flight away.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you for doing this at your midnight hour in where you are halfway around the world. Really appreciate you. I'm just so thrilled that I'm going to be here in Fresno for the next 4 seasons. We have so much, to accomplish, and we've gone so far in my 8 years as music director. So onward with the Fresno Philharmonic. But also the Las Vegas Philharmonic was just announced this past month. And holding my hand is Leonard Slatkin. I don't know if any of you know who he is. He is a legendary conductor who has been artistic advisor to the Las Vegas Philharmonic for the last 2 seasons. And under his guidance and the orchestra, they decided to move forward with this music director designate for me for this year. He's going to continue working with the Las Vegas Philharmonic this season, and then he'll move on. But just to have this legendary conductor just give me advice and all kinds of knowledge. Hearing him speak and hearing his legacy. His parents were both musicians in the Warner Brothers studios. His mother was the first woman to play principal cello ever. I think it was in the 1960s. And his father was the concertmaster. And so hearing all of his stories and the things that he's done, especially with living composers. he's somebody that I've watched videos with the Detroit Symphony, St. Louis Symphony, where he's premiering all the pieces that we're programming here in Fresno. So it's just been really exciting. So thank you, Ben.
No, I'm just going to hope that you'll rephrase one of your phrases. You said you will be with the Fresno Philharmonic 4 more years, and I would like you to say at least 4 more years.
Yes. Well, if you'll have me, I'll be here forever. So, you know.
Well, congratulations. And for people that don't know, both people that play in orchestras and conductors, it's extremely typical for them to have multiple appointments, and so that's just part of the way the industry works. So it's a win for Ray, and it's a win for the Fresno Philharmonic for sure. A double. So let's get into the music. Let's get inside the music. So Ray, quick question: this concert is a little bit different than other concerts in that it's basically traditional works. It's not, a premiere of a living composer or something. So what was your thinking in programming of this concert?
Well, it's interesting. Yes, these are really pillars of the orchestral repertoire. And number one, each piece. So the thing I want you all to think about is each piece on this program was something experimental during that time that they wrote it. So I want to bring it back to living composers, that we're still engaging in this symphonic repertoire now, today. But in their time, these composers, Ravel, Beethoven, and Sibelius, were really trying to experiment and push the genre forward as well in each of these pieces. So it is traditional pillars of the repertoire, but it is also experimental and different.
Yes, and it's hard for people to realize that there's actually a book, and I can't remember the title. Ray might know. It's a book that a doctoral advisor gave me, and it's reviews of all of these composers that now we think were just always accepted. And there are so many reviews of premieres of works where they were completely thrown under the garbage can, thrown into the garbage can, and this is unlistenable. This is all. So they were really experimental. It's just 100 years ago or 150 years ago or something that happened. Can you tell us in what way the Beethoven Concerto was experimental then?
Well, first of all, we get to work with Jackie Parker, John Kimura Parker, who is an incredible pianist, legendary. He's played with orchestras all over the world, and he's coming here to Fresno. I think this might be his first time in Fresno. So I'm really excited to work with him. I've never worked with him before, but this Beethoven Piano Concerto number 3, it's like Beethoven has one foot in the classical Mozart kind of concerto era, and then one foot into his own language of like intensity and drive that we think of like in the Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. So this was written before the Fifth Symphony. It was actually written in around 1800, and it is just a really magical work. But again, this dark quality to it, which I love.
And I'm just curious, since you're an accomplished pianist yourself, have you ever played this or worked on it, or?
I did work on it as an undergrad for a few years, yes, but never performed it. Yeah.
Great. Well, we have a very, very special guest, as I indicated before, Dr. Lea Steffens. Is that the correct pronunciation, I hope? Who is typically the bass clarinetist with the Fresno Phil, but is playing principal this weekend. So if I have it correct, you did your master's and doctorate at UCLA, and
yes.
Did your CSU Long Beach bachelor's, and you've played in too many orchestras for me to list here, but the ones I pulled out are the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra, San Bernardino Symphony, Santa Barbara Symphony, Pacific Pops Orchestra, American Winds, Los Angeles Metropolitan Opera, and EGADS more. And what might be interesting to some people, it was to me, is to know that some of these movies and television shows where we hear the soundtrack to actually meet someone who you're listening to in those soundtracks. So once again,
Where
the list is too long for me
there's
to
sound equipment on
list,
this. Where's the
but
sound?
this is interesting to me. Finding Nemo, Geronimo, Treasure Island, the Lemony Snicket stuff. I love that. And the television show Jag and many, many more. And Leah teaches at Chapman University, Irvine Valley College, and Long Beach City College. So welcome, Leah.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, we're so happy. So as we go through, we would love your perspective as a performer in the orchestra and someone who's been rehearsing these parts for a while, to chime in with your perspective as we're talking about these pieces. So we're very,
Sure.
very glad to get that perspective. So let's move on to Sibelius. And I went ahead and listed the questions so the audience could see them too. I know, Ray, that you're really excited about doing this piece and that your love for Sibelius is grown. So I'm curious. So, why has it grown? I mean, I know for me why it would grow, but what is it about Sibelius's work that it really is resonating with you? And does that mean more Sibelius is in the future for the Fresno Phil?
Yes, definitely more Sibelius in the future. We had our first rehearsal on this symphony last night, and I have to say, it is really so many different challenges that Sibelius uses in his composition, in his orchestration, that we've never encountered with any other composer, including living composers. And so I feel that there is so much, not just in what he says and how it's written, but it's also, I feel like he's the underdog of composers. You know, he's under the
Huh.
shadow of Mahler and Strauss.
Yes.
And this is a composer that always felt like Tchaikovsky, felt like he didn't quite fit in. He didn't know how to write the way that everybody was writing in the turn of the century in the 1900s and 1910, and this was the time of Rite of Spring by Stravinsky and Schoenberg. And so I feel like he's one of the most underrated composers of his time, and
Written
yet
during wartime,
brilliant,
1914,
brilliant.
15, just like the Ravel. I don't hear war in the Sibelius, which is interesting.
Yes, yes. So, John's phone, yes, I'm reading these questions to Ray. And if you could, it would be wonderful if you go to the lower left corner of your screen and mute. Uh, so yes, so you're wanting to champion number one, his music is just like a gift from God, it sounds like to me most of the time. But it's that you feel like he's somewhat underrated and deserves to be heard more. So you're championing Sibelius like you champion so many living composers.
Yes, I
So
agree. I think that's at least the direction I'm going at right now.
no, that's wonderful. I love the way that you think. And this is a question for both Leah and for Ray. So, I mean, it was written during war, right in the middle of wartime, 1914 to 15, and the Ravel we're talking about next was as well. And when I listen to this piece, I hear a lot of things, but I'm not sure if I were writing a piece about war, it doesn't sound like a war piece to me, right? And I think that's interesting that it doesn't. And Steve and I were talking, and he feels the same way. So, I mean, do you think in him what he's trying to express is that life goes on even while violence is happening elsewhere, or he was trying to not even have that enter his mind, or what are
Well,
your two takes on that?
so Leah, I'd like to pose a question to you as a principal clarinet in playing all these melodies that you do throughout the symphony. How do you feel about this question of war and troubling times when you're playing it? Like, do you sense anything when you're playing it that there is that undertone or not?
Well, it's interesting question because as I listened to the symphony and was looking through my part, it's not a symphony that I have performed before, although I have done other Sibelius symphonies 1 and 2. It didn't even occur to me to think about war because it's so joyous. It's this expansive landscape that you're just awash in nature and a majestic Nordic picture that's going on as you're playing everything. And when you look at the individual part, you also don't realize that you're the color of the clarinet, particularly clarinet and oboe, throughout the first movement, it seems ever present. So my focus was on how am I contributing to this beauty of this piece. And but then when you juxtapose that with the fact that the war was going on, I like to think maybe he was just saying it's sort of a nationalistic piece in a way. And he was just saying, let's have some positive, let's not think about the war. Let's have a positive hope towards the future. And I don't, yes, I do not hear war or violence in this at all. So I hope it's just a joy of a ray of hope in this piece during that time period. No pun intended.
Ray, that was a good one. So, what about you, Ray, when you're conducting it? Do you think that's accurate?
Absolutely. There are definitely moments of hope. But what I'm really discovering about the composer is that he had lots of bouts of depression. And I just imagine somebody being extremely sensitive to what's happening around him, the devastation of losing his country, of war, etc., and personal depression, personal issues that he was going through as a composer. Is he a valid composer? Is he writing what he should be writing? He was really tortured. In fact, this symphony, Sibelius rewrote it 3 times, edited it and rewrote it 3 times. And so I think there is this underpinning. And when you hear some of these excerpts we're going to play for you, there is this like devastating emotional state that he endures, but always kind of lifting it up positively at the end.
Well, that's an absolutely wonderful segue to share a score and play some of the excerpts. So, since I'm in India, there may be a lag, but Stephen has these queued up as well. But I actually can't see Stephen, as I indicated, exactly where the cues are. So, if you could give me the first one, I have the Sibelius queued up.
Yes, I think this was to start at the very beginning and for a couple of minutes, the opening. Right.
Okay, let's try that and hope a commercial doesn't come on. So I think it's interesting to look at these scrolling scores because you at least can see, for people that don't know, the higher brackets are woodwinds, and then you have the brass, and then down at the bottom you have the violins, and you can kind of see, even if you don't read music or it's too small, you can kind of see, like, is it dense? Is it not dense? Is it high? Is it low? So let's play for a minute or so. That's the 2-minute mark. Is that good?
That is good, yes. So
Mhm.
I just want to make everyone aware that the horns at the beginning is kind of this echo of landscape of, like Lea was saying, of the Nordic landscape, but also the winds are playing like these bird songs, these bird calls. So you hear the oboe and the clarinet going back and forth, having this dialogue at the beginning. So if you can imagine this picturesque nature of like the dawn, I think that's what it evokes.
And Leah gets to play those parallel thirds.
Yes.
So it's exposed in their duets. Is that challenging to be 100% together with those little turns at the end and everything, or is it pretty easy flowing?
It can be challenging with good players, though. It's pretty easy flowing.
I would think
And with
so. It
yeah.
sounds. Stephen, what's the next one?
I think the next one is at 11:48 to, yeah, I guess to go to hear the end of the first movement.
Okay, what should we be listening to here, Ray?
Yes, so this symphony is really interesting because if you look at the ginormous umbrella, kind of like the form in itself, Sibelius was really experimenting with this symphonic form, right? We're so used to it, like first movement sonata form, second movement, the slow movement, and the third movement would be this quick, fast finale. What he does is he does a palindrome. So it starts off very slow. Then the end, what we're going to hear, it goes fast. And then the third movement, we'll hear more, but it ends slow. So it starts slow and ends slow. And in the middle, there's this movement happening. So this is the end of the first movement where it starts to progressively get faster and faster.
Okay, and you said about 11:32. Is that right, Stephen?
Yeah, somewhere around 11:30, 11.
Okay. Okay, here we are.
So
Cool.
that's a great finale for the last movement, right? But that's just the ending of the first movement.
It sounds really final. Great. Let's move on to the next one, Stephen.
The next one is at I think at 15:34, 15:30, somewhere around there.
Okay. Oh, we have a commercial. Sorry about that, everyone. Skip. Okay. So what should we listen to here, Ray? I'm not hearing Ray.
Sorry, there we go. This is the second movement, and this is a set of variations. And so again, it starts slow, and then it starts getting a little bit more flowy with each variation. But then you'll hear this beautiful, like lilting melody, but then you'll hear this dark quality, this seething of dissent, and I would say a little bit of a angst happening.
Okay. Oh, just put up a hand or something when you'd like it to stop. Okay. Okay. You can conduct me.
So a gorgeous, gorgeous, lush melody followed by just these interspersed, of darkness.
And I think we have one more, right, in this, Stephen?
Yeah, I think we want to hear like the beginning of the third movement, and then we'll jump to the end. So I don't know if you
Oh,
could.
okay, just the first little bit of the first movement. Okay, anything,
Yes,
Leah
so
or Ray, to
so
listen
then
to here?
so the third movement starts fast and ends slow. So this really intense. You'll hear the strings really work. They have a huge workout right there, as you can see. Lots of black notes.
Yes, yes. And Leah, from a clarinet perspective, anything at the beginning? No, you're not playing.
No,
Okay.
not so much. I have
You
a
get to
comment
you get
about
to
the
listen.
end though. Yes.
Okay, okay. Before the end, we'll get to you. Here we go.
Mhm.
Cool. And then we'll go to the last little
Yeah, to about 30
bit.
minutes would be the ending.
So, Ben, it's really important to note that this theme at the end, what happened,
Yes.
Sibelius was taking a walk in his area of Finland and in the woods, and he was really trying to figure out a theme, a motive for the symphony. And he saw a swirl of 8 or 9 swans just taking off into flight. And this inspired him to write this final melody, this theme that has this kind of leap, always dum, beam, bum. And it's, again, this kind of optimism and hope, but also this like taking flight with this inspiration.
Wonderful. And Leah, what were you going to comment about this area?
Yes, I was going to mention those swans, and in the context that we were talking about, that this was composed during the First World War, and those swans again are hope and beauty. But then, if when you get to the very end, you have these 6 striking chords with silence between that just sends shivers down your spine and goosebumps up and down your arms. And if he was going to have a comment, I think, in the symphony about the war, those last 6 notes is where it is.
Wow, I think you're right. So listen for those hits at the end. Here we go. I've always wondered about that very last hit as a
I think the
composer, because
orchestra
that's
last
not
night.
what I think that's not what most composers would do, right? So I think there's some
Yeah.
significance there. Yeah.
Leah, you were
And
going to say something? Yeah.
I was going to praise our orchestra. I think those last 6 notes last night were played so well, better than this recording here. They were so perfectly. I got the goosebumps.
Yeah, yeah, this recording's a little bit, it's not its own target. It's as it
No,
could be,
right.
that's for sure. Uh
Yeah,
let's see.
I
I'm
no,
going to
actually,
go.
I remember the first time that I heard the Sibelius Fifth, and the first time I heard it was in a concert, and wasn't familiar with it, and just how shocked I was at the ending. It's so surprising. Yeah.
Comes out of
Mhm.
nowhere. It's not, you're not expecting it, right? So let's move on then to the Ravel, and I'll just give a little bit of a brief background, and then we can get into the music of it, and maybe we'll have time to see some dancing too, or you can dance at home. So this is the tomb of Couperin, or a piece written as a memorial to him, and this is the house in which Ravel wrote that in France. And who was Couperin? Well, he was a harpsichordist. He was a royal organist and composer for Louis XIV, and his suites are the thing that really, one of the things he was really, really popular for, because they featured really vivid descriptive titles and showcased the elegance and wit of the French Baroque music. So it's interesting that, to me anyway, this work doesn't necessarily sound like Couperin. It sounds like Ravel. But I think what he lifted, he did study the suites of Couperin, and he used some of the forms and some other aspects of it. The original version, interestingly, was only for piano. Okay, it was in 6 movements, and it's what was typical of Baroque keyboard suites at the time. And the war aspect of it that he put into this was that each of these movements was written in memory of friends that were killed in World War I. But another thing that's interesting, just like we didn't necessarily overtly hear like war and fighting in the Sibelius, this isn't a somber piece at all. It's almost like these are dance suites, right? So it's almost as if, we're all dancing old dances in memory of these folks, or maybe they're in heaven doing these dances. It seems a little odd in a way to have something in memory of someone who died and then have these dances, but then in another way, it's a beautiful thing, and it's life affirming and kind of neat. So that's another way of dealing with tragedy, remembering what's positive. Maybe that's at least how I took it. So, but Ravel did explain in response to the criticism of this being like overly kind of happy sounding, that the dead are sad enough in their eternal silence. I like that response. I wish I could come up with things like that when people ask me questions. The orchestra version only uses 4 of these movements, though, not the 6 of the piano version. So what are the 4 that he used? Well, he used the prelude for that, which in piano music is sort of an improvisatory intro to dances. And then I'm probably mispronouncing this. If you all know the correct Forlon, is that how you would say that? Forlon, something like that. It was in the memory of this lieutenant, and they are typically in fast and tempos, 6/8, energetic, skipping. And notice I have the forms here. If you have a pen and paper, write down these names, and you can Google and you can see what the forms are and hear examples of these. I have a chart later on. But typically in keyboard music, this is a rounded binary. This is a binary or ternary. The rigodon, I would guess, is so close to the pronunciation. It's often a rondo. And then the minuet, as we all know, is in minuet and trio form, which is really a type of ternary form. So let's go ahead then. Before I share my donuts with you, let me... I thought before we get to the excerpts, I would just play some very, very short, like 10 seconds or something of some of these dances. So this is the Forlon dance, and the video quality is not great, but it'll give you some idea, typically in Baroque music, what keyboard music, what the dance would be.
We're not getting your screen yet, Ben.
Oh, thank you so much. I forgot to share the screen. There we go. Okay. We'll be in the middle of the dance. Okay, you're welcome to try these at home. if you want to. And then this is the Rigaudon. And lastly, a little bit of a minuet. So that just gives you the flavor, the formal flavor of dancing in the Baroque era. Let's move to the excerpts, and then if we have time, I'll go over some of the form things. So here we have the Ravel queued up. And where should we start the first excerpt, Stephen?
It was to hear the piano version
Aha.
of the very beginning. Yeah.
And I'll
Beautiful.
अरे क्या beautiful. सब तो धुल धुल हो गया
Sorry,
ना।
I'm getting
घर तो अभी
an
भी चमक
Indian
रहा है ना
commercial.
संतोष?
It'll be over in
एशियन
1
पेंट्स का
second.
एपेक्स डस्ट प्रूफ रंग जमेगा धूल नहीं भैया
I am so
So
sorry.
here I'm talking about Delvoye. तो यहाँ पे AI
playing
maps,
two.
UPC, GPT, mock test series, current affairs.
Skip, okay. Well, you got a taste of my life right now. Okay. So here at the very beginning, please don't do that again.
Beautiful.
अरे क्या beautiful. सब तो धुल धुल हो गया ना।
पर घर तो अभी भी चमक रहा है ना संतोष?
एशियन पेंट्स का एपेक्स डस्ट प्रूफ रंग जमेगा धूल नहीं भैया
Okay, if it does it again, we will quit this. Now, to me, at the end, that sounded a little bit like the solo piano music of Keith Jarrett, who's a famous classical pianist and jazz pianist. And then let's compare this, right, Ray, with the opening of the orchestral version. So did everyone hear a ton of difference with the different colors coming in, and you heard it more sectional and question and answering a lot more than just in the piano version? And it sounded a lot more cinematic to me. Ray and Lea, what would you say about the differences in Ravel's orchestration? He's very famous for his orchestration.
Well, I find it incredible that he can orchestrate it, as a pianist, and he can orchestrate it in that way that he does. It's so unique in the different colors. I actually like the orchestral version than the piano version.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And Leah, since you've done a lot of film scoring, I hear near the like 8, 9 measures before the end of the first movement. I'm pretty sure that's been ripped off in for some film score. It sounds so cinematic to me.
Yeah, yes, it
Stephen,
does.
did it sound that way to you? Do you?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is the next what's the next clip?
Yeah, so the next one I think is of the third movement. I think it may start around 9 minutes in.
Let's try 9 minutes, and Ray can tell us if we're not in the right place. Here we go. Oh, it's okay.
So that's the end of the second movement.
Okay.
Here's the
Yeah, sorry.
here's the third movement. That's okay. Here's the third movement, the minuet. Yes, so Ben, it's important to note that as wind players, and Leah, you can kind of chime in anytime, that this is a piece that really highlights the woodwind family of the orchestra in such an incredible way, the way he uses them coloristically. And it was a piece that was requested by the orchestra to perform this at some point in our programs.
Nice. Well, I had a thought I wanted to share. This is a neoclassical work, maybe even neo-Baroque, because he's drawing from those Baroque forms, but he's using his modern color and orchestration. And then if you think about it, the clarinet was not a Baroque instrument. There's just a few pieces written for it during that time. It's very primitive. We had the chalumeau, which was the precursor of the modern day clarinet. We didn't have all the keys. It was technically limited. So it wasn't until really the time of Mozart, he championed the use of the clarinet in his music. And it didn't become a fixture in the orchestral wind section until the late 18th century. So so why is Ravel then including the clarinet in this Baroque piece? Well, it's because part of that genre of a neoclassical style is that, yes, you're drawing on those ancient forms and structures and dances, but you bring your modern language to it. And so by pulling the modern clarinet into this Baroque structure, the ornamentation in Baroque style is not something we learn in standard clarinet pedagogy. So we listen to our friends, the oboes and flutes and bassoons, who have done this all their musical lives, and we figure it out, or we go back and maybe read the quants on playing the flute or something, but we're not used to doing this, the ornamentation or even the Baroque style. And so it's a nice gesture, I think, a kind of the dichotomy of the clarinet being in the Baroque piece, but then the whole genre of neoclassical is bringing the old and the modern together. So it's really nice. And of course, so much of Ravel's music has really beautiful clarinet color in amongst all of the winds. It's just a joy to play.
And for saxophonists, I mean, how many opportunities do saxophonists get to play with an orchestra? And Ravel provided that up one of the few opportunities. So
That's true.
we
Yeah.
appreciate that as well, for sure. Well, let's very briefly, I just wanted to share with the audience just a little basic thing about form, so that they could think about this as they're listening to pieces, because I think personally it makes it more enjoyable for me, and then we'll open it up for a question or two. I know time is getting very limited. So I mentioned rounded binary again. A typical binary form would be like you have a Krispy Kreme regular donut and an egg. So the Krispy Kreme donut is the A, and B would be the egg. They're two different things, right? A ternary form would probably be you have a Krispy Kreme donut, you have an egg, and then you have another Krispy Kreme donut. Three very clear forms. With rounded binary, the A section is divided into two, and you have like a Krispy Kreme donut, and then you have the beginning of a Krispy Kreme donut, but at the end there's a little something different. There's some chocolate on top. Then you repeat that, then you have your egg, and you have this donut, and then you repeat it. So that's kind of the structure. And a rondo form most people know, but it would be like you have something like a donut, then you have coffee, then you have a donut, then you have pizza. So something new in between each donut. Can you tell I haven't had a donut in a long time? So these types. Oh, this is my wine and pizza since I haven't had wine since I left. Okay, wine or pizza, pizza, wine. So that would be a big ABA, but under it you can see that you have these smaller forms. So when listening to any piece of music, I find it helpful to ask myself these questions. It's what's going on? And then you remember what's going on in some way. It can be an emotion, it can be an image, it can be a rhythm. What's going on? And then ask yourself, when does it come back? What's going on? When does it come back? When does something new come in? And then you label the new thing that's coming in. And then you listen and you can hear when things are coming back. And that hearing of form, which can be difficult in classical music, but the hearing of form really enhances, I think, the experience of a concert a lot and gives you a lot to focus on. So let's open it up for a couple of questions if we have time, Stephen, to see if the audience has questions for Lea or Ray.
Any questions? You can unmute if you have a question and just go ahead and.
I see Richard Helzer, who's a composer and knows how to orchestrate. He might have a. I can't hear you. You need to unmute.
There, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Oh, good. Sorry about that. No, I was just wondering, my question was, can you tell me a little bit about the guest artist? I'm not really familiar with them. Anybody? I'll open up to Ray.
Yes. So,
yes.
Thank you. He teaches at Rice in Texas right now, and he's won multiple competitions, but I would say more in the about 15, 20 years ago. And so now he's on the faculty. He's generating the next, legacy of pianists. But he is Canadian as well.
Yeah, I was reading some of the biographical information, and his passion for Oscar Peterson, that kind of struck me.
Well, he might maybe play something as an encore. We'll see.
Oh, that would be fun.
I can't promise anything. But we're looking forward to seeing him tonight. He'll be arriving tonight in town.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I would just like to thank everyone for the opportunity to be able to chime in with you and talk about this absolutely wonderful program that's coming up. And a special thank you to Lea, who joined us as a special guest. We thank you so much for your insightful perspective on things from the woodwind perspective. And thank you, Ray, for leading us through these wonderful works and your perspective on them and things that we can listen to.
And Ben, thank you so much for doing this. When Ben told me that he was going to be in India this month, I said, okay, well, we'll find a substitute. And he said, no, let's give it a try. So thanks. I hope it's already early Friday morning where you are. So I hope the rest of your visit in India goes well and you have safe travels back here.
Well, thank you so much. It's an absolute delight. It's an absolute delight and honor to be able to do this and chat with such knowledgeable people, and it makes my soul feel good. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, and thanks to everyone for zooming in, and we'll see you all this weekend. Okay, bye-bye.